So the other day I had a video about timeout length between the keys in a key map. For example, I've got one space ICP here to send the current paragraph. I could do ICL here to just send one line. So I clear the screen. L means send a line. Got I for iron neovim, which is what I'm using for the Python REPL over on the right-hand side here. The issue is from time to time I make a mistake, especially because I've got that short timeout length. So if I do ICN and I'm just not quite fast enough, even though it is the correct key sequence, it's not interpreted as an actual command. Instead, it's just interpreted as if I wanted to change something and then replace it with an N here. So I go into insert mode, then I'm changing my document, which is definitely not what I intended. And so now if I want to try that again here, I've got to undo, come back out, mash the escape key to make sure I'm in normal mode. And now I can try again here. And there you go. That time I actually got it. And so I found there's actually a good way to approach this problem. I was just thinking, what if I map the IC prefix, if you will? What if I map that to do nothing? So if I've got space and I, well, I could map that to do nothing. So that never matches. I could do space and then IC. I could map that to nothing as well. And then I have a bunch under IS. So I'll do that as well. So I'll put no ops basically throughout the hierarchy until I get to that bottom layer where I've got my actual key maps. So what I did here to work around this problem, I'm going to uncomment these here because I already fixed a few of them and I've actually been using this and I like this a lot here. So I've got a few of these set up here already. I've got the leader key and I, so that's that top level prefix. And then I've got IC and IS. And all three of those I have mapped to this thing called a NOOP here, which if you can see, all I've done here is I've defined a function up here that does absolutely nothing. And so once I've done this here, if I come back over and just reload, all right, so now let's say I do a space ICJ here, which doesn't exist. In that case, space IC gets mapped to NOOP. And then the last thing I'm left with would just be the J key, and that's really rather benign. Same thing is true over on the S side here, space ISJ here. All it does then in that case is recognize it as a J key press to go down because the space I and S gets mapped to a NOOP as well. And then I've got some key maps over in a different plugin here. So for these key maps, I've got leader and then an A. So the A is a prefix. So I definitely want to cauterize leader A here. That doesn't do anything that I care about. Yeah, you can see in that case, it actually triggers me to go into insert mode. And so if I made a mistake there, once again, I'm making changes. All right, so if I were to come in here and add in a new key map here to cauterize the leader and the A key, so I could define another anonymous function that does nothing, or there's actually a NOOP you can use with angle brackets around this. This will work as well. So before I restart though, space A here, you can see it goes in insert mode. So if I then typed, I don't know, S and J, well, of course it's going to come into the document here. All right, so now if I save this with my new key map, restart here, space A, you can see it doesn't go into insert mode. So now my problem's gone, at least with regards to space and then A or leader and then A. So if you're using a short timeout length, so you can have these hierarchy of key maps where you, for example, could have AQ mapped to something, AQC mapped to something else, and you don't have to wait on the AQ for the possibility of that C, well, then that short timeout length pairs really nicely with using this approach here of a NOOP then for the intermediates so that they don't actually go change your document if you're too slow or you make a mistake.